Good evening. This is Jen, the Liberty Lion, and today I'm reading to you from an encyclopedia. I am unsure exactly where I got this page from. I have one page that I collected. I actually have several pages, but I'm not sure that I put anywhere the name of this encyclopedia, but I believe it is from the 1800s. It's page 356, not that that helps you, and it's under law. But what I found is, first of all, it has the website here, Google digitized, and hdlhandle.net and Hathy Trust. So if you really want to look this up and you take a portion of what I go over, like a sentence out of what I go over here, and Google it, you'll probably be able to find it. So what I wanted to help you understand, if you don't already, are the commands. So a command is something that's issued from an inferior to or from a superior to an inferior. So during war, the president has some powers over the military as the commander-in-chief. So when he's acting as commander-in-chief of the military, which is all the United States, not the states, just the, quote, United States, which is the agency that the states created to defend themselves. He acts as commander-in-chief over the military, which are the land and naval forces, which amount to the commissioned officers, and the militia when he calls them into service. So as the commander-in-chief, he can issue commands. So let's see what it says here in this paragraph. Having eliminated metaphorical or figurative laws, what? Metaphorical or figurative laws? There is such a thing as metaphorical or figurative laws. Did you know that? We restrict ourselves to those laws which are commands. This word is the key to the analysis of law, and accordingly, a large portion of Austin's work is occupied with the determination of its meaning. So I've noticed that, at least to the extent of this page that I'm reading, they go over a lot of Austin's work. So Austin's got the theory of law, the theory of sovereignty, and a lot of books out there that he's written on his philosophy or his perception or his ideas of what law is and how it all works. A lot of writers out there have their own philosophy. So we have philosophy of law, which is an art. We have the science of law, which is mathematical. And so there's different types of way that people approach, quote unquote, law. So they're basing this off of Austin's work. A command is an order issued by a superior to an inferior. So when the states created the federal government, they created a system of government that works for them. Now I'm talking about the original states. Those independent original states, called independent states or sovereign states, created an agency called the United States, which amounts to the military and representation in foreign matters, and the promise that the states wouldn't interfere in those military things. And so this regulation of commerce really has to do with, let me back up a little bit. The regulation of commerce between the states really has to do with the states not interfering with the federal government's movement of their military traffic. Not telling truck drivers that they need a driver's license or they need a new truck every 5 years or anything like that. So it's a command is an order issued by a superior to an inferior. It is a signification of desire distinguished by his peculiarity that, quote, the party to whom it is directed is liable to evil from the other in case he comply with not with the desire, end quote. And then, quote again, if You are able and willing to harm me in case I comply not with your wish. The expression of your wish amounts to a command. Being liable to evil in case I comply not with the wish which you signify, I am bound or obliged to it, or I lie under a duty to obey it. The evil is called a sanction, and the command or duty is said to be sanctioned by the chance of incurring the evil. The three terms command, duty, and sanction are thus inseparably connected. As Austin expresses it in the language of formal logic, each of the three terms signifies the same notion, but each denotes a different part of that notion and connotes the residue. And if you don't understand that, that's okay. So a command, duty, and sanction. So when you join the military, you are signing a contract, and that contract basically says that you're going to obey the commands of your superior officers, which also is under the Constitution. It's sort of implied by the fact that you've just joined the military. So when the commander-in-chief gives orders to a military person, usually to the officers, and then the officers give the orders to the enlisted, then he has already promised to obey those commands. So you kind of obey them without question unless they're outside of the Constitution. So the Constitution does not allow the military, it doesn't say that the military can attack its creator, and its creator are the states, and it cannot disobey the orders of their commanding officers. So if you're in the military, you have to obey the commands of your commanding officer, and the highest commanding officer is the commander-in-chief, which is the president. The president is also the executive of the United States of America. Within the military structure, the executive officer is second in command. The commanding officer is first in command. So when I read it from a military perspective, the Constitution and Article 2 and the duties of the president, it's as if it's saying, as commander-in-chief of the land and naval forces and the militia when called into service, the president is the highest officer. So he's the commander-in-chief. When they're not called into service, when the militia is not called into service, and over the states, he's second in command. So, for example, the way I'm seeing it in my head, my perception, and if you disagree, that's cool. You can disagree and just write it in the comments section so I can at least think about what you're thinking. He's second in command of the states. So he's second in command of the militia. The states can call the militia into service, and the president can call the militia into service, but the president doesn't have to call the militia into service. The states, which basically is the National Guard, can call the militia into service, in which case the governor is the commander-in-chief, and the president then is second in command. So let's say that the governor, acting as commander-in-chief of the National Guard, calls the National Guard into service. And then for some reason, the governor disappears or is taken out or whatever. And then it rolls down the line of succession in the state, and it gets to a point to where there's nobody really to take command. Then the commander-in-chief, the president as commander-in-chief or as executive of the United States of America, can then take command of the state, but only when it's necessary. Because if you look under executive of the United States of America, there aren't really listed any duties. They all come under the commander-in-chief. all the duties listed come under Commander-in-Chief. So this is another reason why I'm thinking that the executive of the United States of America is the second in command when the state looks like it's getting ready to fall, or it does exhaust its line of succession. Then the president then can come in as executive officer of the United States of America and make sure that the state doesn't fall. He can then take command of the National Guard. He can become the commander-in-chief of the militia and the land and naval forces in the other states and ask them to come in and help with the issues in the state that looks like it's having problems and getting ready to fall. So a part of the federal government being able to control the states as far as interfering with military traffic and commerce is necessary, because you may have a few states that are blocking the military from getting from, like, say, the east side of the country to the west side of the country. So let's say California looks like it's going to fall to an enemy, and then you have like Nevada and Utah and Arizona blocking them and not letting them through. They can use military force to plow their way through those states to get to California to help California. So when I read the Constitution, it doesn't say to me that the federal government is in charge of all the roads and all of commerce and gets to tell people what to do and require them to have a license. And I know people are going to say it's the state that requires the license, but there's two states that exist in the states, and people don't seem to understand, and they can't seem to grasp this idea that there are two states in the state. One state is the state of all the military lands, and the other state is the state of the non-military lands. So you have the military lands is the federal state, and that's the dependent state because it didn't create the federal government created it. And then you have the independent states, which created the federal government and is supposed to control the federal government. So the commanding officer, when he's acting as commanding officer, issues commands, and they're coming then from a superior to an inferior, which also means that the president, either as commander-in-chief or the executive officer, has no power to order or mandate or any other word that means the same as command, sanction, or lay duties on anyone who's not in the military or the militia when called into service. Okay, so again, this is under law, page 356. You can take any section of this that I just read and type it into your Google search bar, and it should come up with this encyclopedia. I believe it was an encyclopedia. And then you can read some more of this stuff as far as commands, and it's got some stuff on positive law. So good reading if you're into this kind of thing. I really enjoy it. It's opened up a lot of doors for me as far as just knowledge and stuff. So happy hunting, happy reading, and thanks for staying with me here and watching the videos. I appreciate your participation. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, and I'll catch you guys later.